Welcome to the final part of this Napoleon at Leipzig playthrough. We are finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. This is going to be Hanau, Le Grande Armée Retreat, October 29th to October 30th. I've actually set it up for the October 30th day of battle scenario only, and primarily the reason for that is because the approach to battle scenario that starts on the 29th mostly just involves bringing all these French forces onto the map along this road, starting basically with 2 units. The coalition is basically already set up around Hanau, and it would just be many turns of me bringing guys down in march formation. So I figured I would just get right to the meat of the action here and show you the Battle of Hanau. This is going to be a 7-turn game. 7-turn game. Should be pretty quick. You can see I've got it set up here. It's half a map, so we're not looking at a huge number of units or area, although there's still quite a few on here. Lots of French corps. This is historically about a week, a little more than a week after the Battle of Leipzig. Now, we know in our game that the coalition managed to fully surround the French army, and they probably would have surrendered. But I'm playing this for posterity's sake. I also think the coalition is going to win the campaign, given how heavily they outscored the French in that last big scenario. But I thought it would be interesting to play this out and say that I did everything in the box. So we're going to go have a go at this. Now, what's interesting about this scenario is that, first of all, the victory conditions. So there's 15 points up for grabs. There's the city of Hanau itself here. That's worth 10. This bridge here is going to be worth 5 if you control it. And then if the French have the more victory points at the end of the game, and they have opened basically an in-supply route from this hex to all their units, they will win. So what the coalition is going to be trying to do here is block them off and basically just force a delaying action so they can't make it off the map. Now, it's going to be very difficult for a number of reasons. One, not a lot of coalition units. They're not going to get any reinforcements in this scenario. What they've got here is 1 Austrian corps, the 5th under Fresnel, and then they've got these Bavarians here who are under the command of, I believe this is pronounced Vrede, Red, and some Reed. Someone else can tell me. But he is an overall commander, meaning he's not going to be able to directly command all of the units in this corps because there is no Bavarian corps commander. So what's going to happen is with his one command, he's going to be able to put Fresnel in command every turn, and then he's going to be able to order 1 stack of these Bavarian defenders. And so it's going to be a very chaotic and disorganized defense here. And so the French are going to have a little bit of the upper hand to be able to try and punch through here. You can see there's masses of cavalry here out on the left side, some artillery as well. Now, I rolled for weather. We are going to be starting this scenario with rain conditions, which is going to mean that there's no bombardment. Artillery is only 3/4 strength for the next 4 turns. So there's going to be some heavy fighting in the rain, and that should be pretty interesting. The other thing I've done is we know which leaders were captured in the Battle of Leipzig. And so while I am not doing the approach to battle scenario, what I have done is, and while I have not left all of the eliminated units from that battle out of this scenario, I felt that, a week and a half later, Napoleon would have been able, and the French army in general, would have been able to reorganize, pick up their stragglers, reform some units, and get together for this retreat. And so what I've done is I've left the scenario setup intact. However, I do also know which leaders were captured in that battle. And so what I have done is I have started the corps leaders that were captured in the Battle of Leipzig, captured here, right? Because they would not have been on this retreat. So, for example, Sebastiani, he's here. He's going to start captured, so he's slightly worse than he normally is. Loriston, again, captured, slightly worse. Augereau up there. And then coming on later, you've got a lot more French reinforcements. I don't know how much these units are going to play of a role in the battle, again, considering it ends right here. And so when they come on, they're not going to probably have a lot of time to be able to make it to the front. But Marmont, we know he was captured as well. So, a little bit of a twist here just to preserve some of the historical integrity, see if we can give the coalition a fighting chance. And we'll dive into this. This should be pretty short of a video, and of course I will check in when interesting stuff happens, and then we'll wrap up the entirety of Napoleon at Leipzig, maybe in a separate video, maybe in this one. I'll give you my final thoughts on what the experience was like playing through this, and whether or not I recommend the game or the system for that matter. So let's get to it. Well, I always forget how breezy and quick this system plays when you don't have 2 maps full of counters on it. I've been playing not that long. We've already rolled through 3.5 turns. Basically, we're here 2 p.m. turn. It's the coalition half of the turn. You can kind of see the line of contact that the French have made. So the French have made some assaults down into the coalition positions here as the guard kind of gets formed up to make a push over towards the bridge. That's what they really want to capture to get that 5 points there. It's been pretty mixed. This Austrian unit here in this town, this village of Neuhof, has repulsed several attacks and has actually demoralized MacDonald's 11th Corps, who were sort of the first wave that the French threw in. You can see the guard moving down now to try and push them back. The holding strong, the Austrians and the Bavarians here. On the left flank here, it's been a little bit worse. Mostly cavalry over in this part of the map and this open ground. The French coming down in this direction have Latour and Sebastiani and Victor have managed to sort of eject the Austrians and this Bavarian artillery from their starting positions and are slowly starting to push this flank back. You can see cavalry here under Sebastiani have taken up this like small island, these 2 island hexes basically in this river, or maybe not an island, but like this these land hexes between this tributaries. And they've pushed these cavalry back into this woods here. And there's more cavalry on the way from Arigi. Now, it's going to be a lot harder to fight cavalry to cavalry in here because of the woods effect on Cav, but it's going to go for both sides. So, Victor can get some of this artillery down in here, infantry down in here. We might have a different story. All this colored stuff is all march orders. I started this scenario using most French formations under march orders just to keep them in command for as long as possible. I was allowed to do that. The defense, a bit disorganized, but still holding up pretty well. I do have to roll for coalition artillery shortages every time they do a 1R result on their bombardment, which they did here successfully against one of these stacks, but they're not short on ammo yet. The French up here, you can see Augureau, he's coming down around this direction to essentially hold this crossing. His corps not in really good shape to be doing much attacking. And the other thing I should mention about this scenario is actually that the demoralization thresholds are very low. You can see here's the 11th Corps. They're definitely demoralized, but we're looking in this final column here. You can see 2 losses will demoralize the 3rd Cav, the 7th, and the 8th. It doesn't take very much, 1 unit going away, and because most of these French forces start reduced, it's basically they take a hit or take a loss, and it demoralizes the corps. So the French really want to rely on the guard here to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish. Again, we can stake the guard at the point that we think that would be most useful. But the one thing here the reason I'm pausing mid-turn that I wanted to draw your attention to was the Bavarians and the Austrians had some defenders way out here, right? They sensed that the French might be trying to come across and come down this road to sort of roll up the right flank. And so they sent out some cavalry. There's an Austrian unit here, and some Bavarians holding these key crossroads. Now, this turn, this Bavarian infantry unit actually rolled successfully for initiative, and he was here, and he's moved up the road now to try and intercept Lauriston, who's headed over here to Wolfgang, this village in the woods, because what Lauriston wants to do is come down in this direction and march on Hanau, which has a very unprotected right flank. And so sensing that, this unit commander, who is this? This is Pappenheim. Pappenheim found some initiative. He moved in, and he's going to confront this attack. Now, it's a 5-3 attack. That's pretty good. Even if he just slows Lauriston down, that's pretty nice. The rest of Lauriston's corps is way up here, so it's going to take them a turn or two to get in position. And this road is critically important through these woods. But then the next thing that happened was that this light cavalry unit, Diaz here, he also rolled successfully for initiative. And now I'm inclined to move him up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and make an attack now that's 2-1 against Lauriston in these woods. If we can successfully interdict this envelopment attempt, it's going to be very hard for the French to gain control of this bridge or even punch through here. It's still possible, obviously, on the left, but this is a pretty savvy, pretty unpredictable maneuver here from the Bavarians under sort of unit initiative commands, and we'll see what happens there. So stay tuned. Uh-oh, our old friend 6 is back. So we made a combined arms attack between the Bavarian artillery and these Austrian infantry cavalry stack against Latour. He had to retreat, and of course, when he retreated, the 6 was rolled. So that means Latour has been captured. He made it all the way through the Battle of Leipzig without anything bad happening to him. And that's going to be very problematic for his first cavalry maneuvering in the near future. Well, lo and behold, this forest fight over here in Butauwald with this Bavarian attack, they actually won initiative again this turn, decided to make an attack again against Lauriston. It ended up being an exchange result, reducing the Bavarian, but eliminating Bertrand's brigade here from 5th Corps. That's enough to demoralize the Corps. That single loss is enough to demoralize Lauriston's Corps. Now we need to see what happens to Lauriston. See, hope we don't get a 6. No, we got a 2. So he's going to retreat to the nearest unit, which is here, who are out of supply because we had a weather check at this turn, and that's going to mean that this little end around attack that the French were hoping to accomplish is going nowhere, thanks to some swift thinking from Pappenheim here. All right, well, here we are at 5 p.m. on October 30th. At least in this game. Right now it's about 11 p.m. on October 31st. Almost 100 years later, 200 years later, excuse me. I can do math. So the French, it's the final day turn, and it's the French part of the turn, so it's really the final movement. Before we go into a PM turn, where not much is going to happen. So the French really do need to get a move on here. Not sure it's possible. They have carved their way through the defenders. They've pushed them back. Although in this last turn, the coalition, the Bavarians and the Austrians did manage to counterattack in some of these key locations, and every single counterattack pushed the French back again. The Bavarians are taking a licking, as you can tell by the fact that there's not very many green counters left. They have taken a boatload of losses over there, but the French have taken a lot of their own losses as well. This is looking like another coalition victory or a very successful delaying action. The French have not been able to take the city. They have not been able to take this key bridge here. And they've been stymied in the forest in this direction and stymied by coalition artillery here and artillery there. So they are going to turn the screws on this final turn, see if they can get something going. But it's looking like potentially another coalition victory here. There's 15 points between these two hexes that the coalition have, and the French haven't even opened the way to this hex here, so they got a tall job ahead of them. So we're going to finish this up, and I'll come back. We'll give you the final score, and then we'll talk about the campaign score and sort of what I think of Napoleon at Leipzig as a complete boxed package. All right, at last, here we are. It is complete. Napoleon at Leipzig. The Battle of Nations and the retreat to Hanau, October 1813. We have played every single scenario in that box. I'm exhausted. Now, that's not to say the game is difficult to play, but I've been doing this now for over a month, and it's been a great time. The final score here was a coalition strategic victory. The delaying action by the coalition was successful enough. The French ended up taking the bridge here for 5 points at the end, but the coalition picked up 10 for keeping Hanau, and the French did not manage to open the road. So, you know, Reed, whatever his name is, he successfully managed to delay the French long enough to win this scenario. As you can see, there's a card that potentially continues the scenario. They were going to have a hard time holding it with all these reinforcements coming on. There was more reinforcements that got delayed on the turn track that would have come in as well. But we would have played a whole nother day if that was the case. We would have played Halloween 1813. But this is it. This is the end. And I totaled up all the victory points of all the scenarios, and it was, in fact, a coalition strategic victory driven in large part by the performance at Leipzig itself and the absolute crushing of the French army outside the city walls. I would say the heroes of this particular game, this particular week and a half of battling, 2 weeks of battling, definitely the Russians in the Battle of Leipzig. They were the ones who closed the noose, as it were, around Napoleon and his forces, and with their beleaguered army coming down this way towards Hanau, they were stopped in place, at least for a little bit, by a Bavarian Austrian force here around the city. So, this is it. We've done it. We've played through everything. I would say I definitely got my money's worth out of this game. I know there's an Operational Studies Group sale going on right now. This game is still in print. I know a couple of you have commented that you've picked it up after watching some of my videos. It is a crazy undertaking to play everything in here. The one thing I will say, this is obviously not the place to start with this system if you're looking to get into Library of Napoleonic Battles. This is probably at the very far advanced end of the game, primarily just because of the density of the counters, the number of commanders, the size of the battles. This one's not too bad. This is probably a pretty good start. You know, you do pick this up as your first game. I would play Hanau first just to get a sense of it, and then maybe move on to Liebert Volkwitz, and then maybe set up the 2 maps. But certainly, this game is the largest in the entire library of Napoleonic Battles by far. Greatest number of counters, map area. Like it was hard. It's a very smooth playing system. It's very easy to play, but certainly as the battle got bigger and bigger and swelled, it was taking me a long time to get through turns, and it's just You know, it was a little mechanically difficult sometimes to like figure out which units and which leaders were in command and what weren't. So that's why you saw cubes and stuff all over the map. Here's essentially the table and how we finish. We finish with half a map, some turn tracks. Napoleon at Leipzig. Do I enjoy it? I do enjoy it. I thought it was really good. I love this system. I know some people don't like this system, and I think it's really interesting. I think it really captures maneuver well. I've said that in the 4 lost battles. And, you know, I'm looking forward to, you know, this series continuing. You can see up there, you've got the rest of... You got a bunch of other ones, not the rest, but a bunch of other ones. I know that OSG is working on a reprint of The Coming Storm, which is one that's been out of print for a while. That's got, I believe, Austerlitz in it. One of the famous Napoleonic battles is in that one. And we also don't have the game that precedes 4 lost battles. So that's 4 lost battles right there. Then we go chronologically to Napoleon at Leipzig. But we actually don't. And then there's a couple games from 1814 that have come out. I believe Napoleon Retreats and La Patrie en Danger. Those two cover the 1814 campaigns. And then, of course, there's the last battles, or Napoleon's Last Gamble, which is that one there, which is Waterloo. But we don't have the early 1813 game yet, and that's something I hope that they're working on. I hope what we get at some point. But basically, I would pick that up, and it would be a great bookend. You would have basically the Battle of Dresden, then you'd have 4 lost battles, and then you would have Napoleon at Leipzig, and that would cover all of 1813 major conflict. But yeah. So yeah, if you're old hat or, you know, you like bigger games, this is the monster of the system, Napoleon at Leipzig. But if you want to start somewhere else, I would say 4 Lost Battles is a great starter package for you because the 4 battles are small and very manageable and very playable. And then from there, jump off to whatever part of the chronology that you think is really interesting. I personally am very excited for Bonaparte Overruns Piedmont, because that will bookend Bonaparte and the Quadrilateral really nicely. And I think what I'm going to do when I pick this series up again on the channel is we're going to start from the very beginning, French Revolution, and we're going to play Fleurus, and then move into those games and maybe just work our way forward. So thank you for sticking with me for this video series of Napoleon at Leipzig. It was epic. Unfortunately, the battle was pretty one-sided given what happened, but I hope you got a good sense of how big the scale was of this game, and I can't wait to come back to this series in the future with some, you know, different looks, some different scenarios, maybe Napoleon against Russia, see some of Borodino, which I think is the 2nd largest battle in this system. We'll see. What's next? Well, what's next is I'm headed to BotosCon in Vancouver, so you'll see coverage from that coming up this weekend. We'll be doing, obviously, more demos for Seljuk, and when I get back, we're going to do something more World War II-ish. I would like to learn BCS, so we may be playing Aracore, and I think that's what's going to be next on my list. I hope you've been enjoying the content. We'll have a couple unboxings on the channel as well for stuff that I picked up in the Compass sale, and something that I pre-ordered from Europe when that comes in. So stick around. Much more to come over the next couple weeks. Thanks.